During those days, it was 1996, 1997, so we still have to stay indoors after 6 p.m. We still have Khmer rule, soldiers or people with guns.
Have you felt like you've had some run-ins with some of that darkness?
I think the most recent one is just, a short-term mission team came, and already one of the participants who visited Siem Reap, she couldn't breathe and she felt something pressing on her chest.
Yeah.
And her whole body was tense. And so we all had to rally around and pray for her. I like this phrase. In Khmer, they say, Tua la'o, ban la'o, means do good and you receive good. But in Romans, it's actually you receive good, then you do good. So I reverse it and say that we ban la'o, then we tua la'o.
Welcome to the That Guy in Cambodia podcast. Today's guest left her comfortable Malaysian lifestyle to serve as a dentist and cleft orthodontic specialist in Cambodia for the gospel. She trained the first cleft orthodontics providers here in Cambodia and is still training people today. She has had many adventures over the years here in Cambodia, and she details them in her book, Lizard Tales by Chern Chern. Check out my Instagram if you want a copy. Well, let's jump into the podcast. All right, Chern Chern, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Travis.
Hey, so let's start with, what do you do here and what brought you here to Cambodia in the first place?
Okay, I am a dentist. I do train dental students, and now I train dentists in the dental clinics in Siem Reap and also in Phnom Penh, mainly in the Cleft Clinic. What brought me here? I didn't come here thinking I would be doing a cleft ministry more than 27 years ago. I did have some idea I'll be doing some dentistry, but when we joined OMF, we know that we're here for the gospel, so it's very much we are part of a local church, part of a ministry team with other OMF members, and so working together, that was how we actually started the Jesus Village Church Ministry, previously known as Khmer Church.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So you were there for the beginning of Jesus Village Church?
We were there for the beginning, yes. Yeah. It was a very blessed time. We had Korean, we had Australian, and we also have England in our small ministry team to start the church.
That was a totally different Phnom Penh in that time. Could you tell us some of the things what was it like for those of us who maybe have just been here a few years?
Yeah, during those days, it was 1996, 1997, so we still have to stay indoors after 6 p.m. We still have Khmer rule, soldiers or, people with guns. And very much things are just very, very rural. The roads are not really tarred. You don't have big malls or not many cars also. But I think life was simple.
Yeah. Do you miss it?
Actually, I miss maybe the simplicity of things, because now what we see here is lots of big cars and big malls. I think secularism has really crept in, and we see the gap between the rich and the poor become wider and wider.
Do you feel like that's changed the community nature of Phnom Penh?
Yeah, if you tell me about community now, then we will say that you hardly get to talk to your neighbors. Whereas in the past, we very often talk to our neighbors because we don't put fences up. And I think, like I said, people are simpler those days. And so it's easier, I feel, to make some local friends compared to now. Yep.
Yeah. When you were first coming over here, there probably weren't as many churches as well. So what was it like as Phnom Penh's developing and there's not many churches, there's a lot of unreached people. What is it like?
Actually, I was thinking of something else this morning about our international church, where we only have like 2 international churches, and somehow you go to one or the other and you get to meet a lot of other missionaries. But over time, there are so many international churches now, so you hardly get to see many people because we're all split to different places. Okay, but for Khmer Church, there were fewer Khmer churches then. But I'm thankful to see that there are more churches, Khmer churches in Phnom Penh, but it doesn't mean that there are more churches in the provinces yet. But I think from the time when we came until now, Phnom Penh has really expanded a lot. Like previously it was not even 1 million people, but now with more people, I think there's place for more churches. And I think what's important is the teaching from the Bible, and they are following the Bible, and they are also evangelizing and also being a witness in their communities. I think then, so there are several, or I would say many Khmer churches now in Phnom Penh.
Yeah. So were there many people who were coming here working as a professional and also doing mission work? Was that a common thing?
Professional and doing mission work, I will find that very difficult to answer. I would say we do mission work with our profession. Yeah. But
course.
If you say that I'm a professional and if I try to open my own clinic and say that I'm going to do missions, I don't see many of that happening, because I think you really don't have much time if you are to do your own business. But there might be some people who are doing that, just that maybe I'm not so aware of them.
Yeah. Tell me, how did you balance that? Because that is something I've heard a lot about, is you get kind of sucked into the professional job or into the mission world. I'm finding that's hard to balance.
Right. Actually, I'm very thankful because the professional work that I do is mainly voluntary. So I don't have to commit 5 days a week, 8 to 5. I can say something I can commit 2 days. And the earlier days, I actually job share with my husband, who's also a dentist teaching at the University of Health Sciences. So we could actually do a whole week, but because 2 of us share, and so that was good. And we've got a young baby at that time. So at least one of us could be at home with him. And also we have to do our language studies, which over the years is a great investment to be able to speak Khmer and the heart language of the people, and being intentional to reach them with the gospel of Jesus Christ.
What does being intentional look like?
Being intentional means whatever we do, it's not I would say, I don't want to say that there's a secular and sacred divide. So how I treat my patients, how I treat my staff at the dental clinic is actually the message that God loves them, and we don't discriminate whether you're cleft or you're not cleft, whether you are richer or not so rich type of thing, and always being able to have the opportunity in words and in deeds. So so whenever there's a gospel opportunity, use that. And thankfully, I must say, because Cambodia is an open country and they know you are the Jesus people, so it's okay. So just share, God is good, or can I pray for lunch today?
Yes.
Or can I ask, I know someone who's a Christian in our midst. We ask God for His blessing for all of us, as we partake this food. And let's also ask God for a blessing over, all those kids that we saw today. So just just also say we're all wanting to do this together. So I feel it's intentional, rather than it so happened or it never happened type of thing.
Right. And like you said about just how you treat your patients, that does stand in pretty stark contrast from many of the stories my local Khmer friends will share about medical system 10, 20 years ago.
Actually, it can be very sad, because sometimes when patients, those who are poor, can end up keep on waiting for their turn and not called. And people who are more well off get called in first. But that was in the dental school previously. Then we saw, and then we said, hey, you've been here for a long time. I think we should come in. Just along the way, I think it's good that the staff also catch on, rather than, I think we are guests here and we don't want to be judgmental of other people. But can we also, in some ways, model what it's like, and also respecting, we want to not discriminate those who are poorer, but we also don't want to be judgmental with our local colleagues type of thing. So there's always trying to balance, how to be, I would say, maybe the word is winsome on both sides. But by God's grace, I would say, so not a matter of we know how to do it naturally or easily.
Yeah, I think that that's a really important thing. I do see people who get really frustrated sometimes with the culture, and I think that doesn't really help anyone. But how do you process some of those frustrations? And yeah, when you see some of the things that go on that are maybe just culturally different, maybe it's not even right or wrong, it's just different. How do you process
Right. So when values clash, there definitely is a tendency for us to feel very stressed. So the first time, you probably will just, you say like, you might lose your cool. But maybe a second time, rethink, how can I do it better? Even if I don't agree on this value thing. So it's always a learning experience, a learning lesson that we go through each day, and through each of this experience that we get to be part of, what's happening in everyone's daily life. So in some sense, I would say as a foreigner, I might not get it as bad as if you are a local Christian, when your values clash with your fellow brothers and sisters, in your midst. So but there's always a second chance to try and say, how can I do this better?
Yeah. Are there any cultural differences that you would want to give some people a heads up for? Maybe there's some people listening who want to go in the medical profession.
Yes. Okay. I think one of the things that's very interesting is teaching in the university, or I would say education in Cambodia. Back home, everybody is so individualistic. Do your exam, do your homework, do your lab work, or do it yourself, and you shouldn't cheat. You shouldn't ask your friends to do it. But in a community where, they have this very collectivism type of community, everybody just do it together. Whether it's exam time, let's just discuss, from table to table. Or if your friend is struggling, you just show some of your answers to your friend, or help a friend who can't bend the wire for the orthodontic lab work. And they seem okay about things like this. And so, or they just tell each other the answers and not trying to teach. So I think over time, I do see a group of students who really want to do it themselves, but they said that if they don't let their friends copy or help them after the exam, outside the exam hall, might have bad feelings, from others and things like this. So how to empathize with them? So, I'm not for copying. So sometimes I have to think of ways to overcome that, different students get different sets of questions, so you better don't help each other. That was one time that I did that, And also about some of these things, I don't know, for me it's what is my intention?
Right.
And so especially I'm thinking those who are weaker, I'm willing to give the student extra class so that, I really want you to be able to understand dentistry. You're going to go out and treat patients, I want you to be safe. So how about, rather than just catch them if you copy, but how can I help you to understand this work? Of course, it takes more time on our side, and sometimes we're also not sure whether the student wants it or not. So again, there's always this trying to balance up whether they want or they don't want it, type of thing. So I think just do within what our ability, what we can, and always intentional to want to build them up rather than just want to find fault with who is wrong, what's wrong, type of thing.
Yeah. Are there other things you think they should be aware of if they were to do any medical work or dentistry here?
Right. Okay, so in terms of medical dentistry, from our training, we are asked a lot of questions, take a lot of history, then go through all the tests, then you have to do your professional diagnosis. Then they ask you, the other lecturer just tell us the answer and didn't answer so many questions.
Yeah.
So sometimes they just want you to tell them. But again, all this, I feel that you need to work long enough in this country. If you just come for a short term, a few days, you might not be able to understand or make an impact in the lives of the students. But over time, they realize that if you just, I would say what you think, but then really it's not working, and then you have to go back all the steps and go and find the diagnosis again. So I think over time, I can see there are some students who they really want to follow these methods to do the right thing so that they are giving the best to their patients. So it's okay. I don't think we can change everybody, but I think model that, and with time, I believe there are quite a number of competent dentists in Cambodia. I won't say all. So I'm happy to send our missionaries to go and see them.
Yes. I've heard that Cambodia is actually a place for tourist
medical
dentistry.
tourism. Yes, medical and mainly dentistry tourism. Medical, not so sure. But since COVID, I'm not so sure whether it's that active anymore compared to before COVID.
Yeah. I remember being surprised to hear that. And then I went, because I hadn't been to the dentist yet. And then I went to and I thought, are you kidding me? A cleaning for $10? Because in home countries, you have to have insurance, and it's like $200 for a cleaning. And I think some foreigners think, oh, that must mean it's not good. But it was a great quality. I was surprised.
Yep. But again, there's a range from great quality. And I must admit that there are places that are not so, not so bothered, I would say.
Yeah.
Actually, by right, I feel the training should be good. But again, like today, I was just talking with one of the junior dentists at, some of our teeth, our teeth is a 3D thing. Okay. You can have like different surfaces, but sometimes you just want to feel one surface. When there are like 2 or 3 surfaces, that is curious. So, but this junior dentist feels sad. Why? He said those dentists don't want to do it. So I was thinking, wow, he's concerned. And I was just thinking that, of course, we must do the right thing. So whether they realize, the thing is sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So do these dentists know that this tooth has more than one surface that has got a cavity? So if you don't know, that means there's something wrong with your training, or you don't know how to diagnose. But if you know and you don't want to do it, then that's negligence. So I think there are a lot of things happening in whatever area, not just dentistry. But I think being together with them, whether it's in a dental clinic or in a hospital, gives us a lot of opportunity to, I would say, I really want to empower them so that we're not the one that know how to do it. So like I'm not sure whether I told you this morning that I was in the Cleft clinic, so they can run it themselves most of the time because we train them up and they're willing to learn. And so I think it's good. So then this work can actually expand to more places and to treat more people rather than I want to do it myself and not want to share this information with others.
Is that something that's rare to find amongst dental teachers?
I think, again, speaking as a foreigner here, like you mentioned just now, you could get a scaling for such a low cost. So the competition is very great, and you need to have many patients each day to be able to cover your cost. And so not every teacher, because the teachers also need to have their own clinics outside to survive. So I think I would say it can be two-way. Sometimes you can say maybe the teacher didn't want to share enough information with the students, but maybe the students themselves don't bother. They don't want to have that patience to learn all the steps. They just want to go ahead and doing something. So in terms of quality, some would not be as great as others. So we always have to watch out who. Sometimes our teammates will ask me if they need to have a wisdom tooth removed, something like this. Then we need to get them to see someone who's expertise in this area, type of thing. But I think general things are quite okay across the board. But the more specific or complicated type of treatment, I think it's better to just check through with those in our team who know, who might be amongst locals, is an expertise in that area.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for that overview and picture, because sometimes I don't see that connection with low price, a lot of competition. There's a lot more that can go into that. So thank you.
Sure.
What you mentioned earlier about you weren't expecting to go into cleft palate surgeries. So what brought you there?
No, it's not the surgery that I'm doing, the feeding plate. So actually I'm doing the part of an orthodontist to help the baby to be able to feed and also to reshape the cleft site to make it smaller and shape the nose. So it's a different thing to what the surgeon does, but the surgeon is part of this cleft team. So how things happen, I would say God opened one door after another type of thing, and so this is where I am today. Yeah.
Wow.
And all this can only happen also because we've got a team. So those that came from overseas and then also the locals that are willing to do this. And then also we call it the multidisciplinary aspect of work. Like nurses, like pediatric dentists, speech therapists, like you said, surgeon. And so we all have to work together to care for all these children who are born with clefts.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know I'd asked you earlier, I don't know if you could give us some details as to what causes cleft palates.
Yeah. So cleft palate can happen from genetics, but it can also happen from environment. So research has found that those who have got like history of family members with cleft might have a tendency for cleft. But there are those who never have anybody in their family who have cleft, then they're born with cleft. So again, you see, that could be an environmental thing. Also, I was just interacting with some of these moms or dads. I think they come from a very poor background of malnutrition and even not taking things like folic acid before pregnancy, and also being exposed to insecticides and pesticides and all those. So there's a tendency for cleft to happen in their babies, even if they do not have a family history of cleft.
Yeah. In terms of ministry side and sharing the gospel, could you share with us some of the encouraging testimonies and encouraging moments of your time here?
Yeah. All right. I wouldn't say that, I'm always successful to convince people to believe in Jesus, but I love the conversations, especially with tuk-tuk drivers. Because, we're on a journey together, and I will ask things like generally just getting to know them and what they do, what they hope to do. And I quite often ask them which province they come from, were there churches there? And I would say maybe 1 in 4 told me when they were kids, they've gone to church before, but most of the time they can't remember anything anymore. But it's just like, I say, hey, they say we don't have time to go to church. I say, I think nowadays we all have handphone. How about, just, you can listen to some of this like YouTube, about Jesus while you're waiting for passengers. And then I did talk about things like today, where do they think human beings come from? And where might we be going to? But again, all these conversations, we have to have, I would say, respect and not judging, but just say that, I believe this and I have hope for this and Jesus did this for me.
Yes.
Sometimes it's very interesting when you see that actually slowing down actually sometimes I'm in a rush, but I knew that that means conversation is becoming interesting to them.
Yes.
They want to talk more, and so they will intentionally drive slower.
Wow. That's a blessing.
Yeah, but I also thank God that even when times that people are unhappy because I'm a Christian, it's also a good opportunity. Like you say, I don't like Christians, but I like what they do, but I don't like them to tell me about Jesus. I say, okay, let's talk, So why, Christians want to share about the love of God. And I like this phrase. In Khmer, they said, Tua la'o, ban la'o, means do good and you receive good. But in Romans, it's actually you receive good, then you do good. So I reverse it and say that we ban la'o, then we tua la'o. Not because we want to get salvation, but because we already given all these things before we do anything good. So whenever there's opportunity to do conversations like this, so I felt that was really, really, I would say, interesting.
Yeah.
And but whether, they go on to explore more, but I want to see that it's by God's Spirit that works in each of their hearts, and one step closer to believing, one step closer to the cross type of thing. Yeah. So I'll just say that, okay, in terms of sharing, I would say more regularly would be like teaching Sunday school when the Khmer church was very young and first starting, and so being able to share and teach the kids like week after week, or doing Bible study with students in university, or now with the graduates. Yeah, I would say now most of my Bible studies would be with people who have believed, but it's important for them to know deeper into the word, because when they know the word deeper, then they are able to share the gospel with others. especially many of them come from families who do not yet believe in Jesus. So I might not be doing directly now, but indirectly instead.
Yeah. What inspired you to come over to Cambodia in the first place?
When Cambodians ask me questions like this, I'll say, I actually don't want to come, but God asked me to come. Because they like to ask me, is your country better or my country better?
Yeah.
So now, if I say my country is better, they'll get offended. If I say that your country is better, then I was thinking, really? I miss a lot of things back home. Okay, so back to the question. It started when I was a teenager. I come from a Christian family, and there's a Bible school dean from Singapore that came to preach, and he was just like challenging our Christian families that you should give your children to serve the Lord, rather than just go and get a good job and live comfortably. And so then I just felt, okay, I want to serve God where He sent me, possibly as a missionary. And interestingly, my grandma gave me a book, and this book is on John Sung. John Sung is a Chinese evangelist who is very bright, went to America, got his PhD, and then God asked him to go back to be an evangelist, and not just going back to China, but going to Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, and many countries. And so Malaysia is where my grandparents had a chance to listen to his sermons.
Wow.
And so one thing very special about John Sung was that being a brilliant scholar, he has all his awards, but when he took the ship back to China, he threw it into the sea.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was thinking, can I give up what I think is valuable for me to serve God? Of course, at that time, I don't have any certificate or awards or anything, but it's just that inspiring story of someone who actually gave his life to serve God. And my grandparents were recipients of this grace of God. And then, of course, after that, I read lots of biographies and realized that, many missionaries have come to my country to share the gospel so that my relatives, my forefathers could become Christians. And so I want to give my life to serve God. Of course, with time, then I like going to short-term mission trips or mission conferences and joining the student ministry in university, help to build up this sense of calling towards missions. And of course, the mission trip to Cambodia that opened up my eyes to see the need of this country. And of course, the open door, because I did go to other countries. There were needs there, but at that time, there were no open doors for me to go.
Wow.
Yeah. So long story cut short.
Yeah, thanks. What about, did you ever have a moment like that where you felt like you were having to lay down some of those awards or some of those things that were valued in your home country for the gospel?
Yeah.
Do you want to share any of this?
Yeah. I think one of the things is my dad. My dad is a Christian, and he felt that I didn't have to go to missions in Cambodia, of all places. So I would say out of love, told me that why not I work as a dentist, I can earn money and let others go. But I have to lay that down and tell him no. My sense of calling for missions is very strong. And God in His own ways showed my father that He called me. So He had to lay down something to let me go.
Yeah.
So it's things like this that as I think back, God is at work. I mean, it's not just I want to orchestrate something or this is a fancy idea to go overseas and live and take some risks and things like this. Yeah. And actually at that time, right, it's no joke when you say you want to go Cambodia, because there are about maybe 10 million people and there are 10 million landmines. So each time, my friends talk with me, they ask me, do you still happen to have your limbs with you still?
My goodness.
Type of thing, yeah. But as I think back now and having my own grandchildren grandchild and my children, and how my father had felt when I tell him I want to go Cambodia.
Yeah.
So I thought that was not easy for him, but I really wanted him to give his blessing for me to go to Cambodia, and God showed him. And so that was very special. Something about the things I have to lay down may not be as much as the things my parents have to lay down.
That's a good perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Could you compare and contrast your home culture to Khmer culture?
Actually, not too different.
Really? Okay. Tell me some of the similarities.
Like community. You see, even if I want to make a decision to come to Cambodia, I tell my parents. Just like, Cambodians will always tell their parents they want to do something. You don't just like disappear and go to America for 3 years to study. You tell them, what you're doing, type of thing. And you want to have their blessing, doing things together. Then I would say, spontaneous. I would say, like, if you want to have a meal, right after this meeting, I say, hey, you want to go for a meal or not? But for certain culture, you must let them know in advance. So that spontaneity is, so now I have to be more careful because with Cambodians, it's always quite easy. Just, hey, come, let's go and eat something.
I love that. That's one of my favorite parts of the culture.
Then you're no longer your home culture anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
I think then the other thing is the markets. I like the market, the wet market, I'm not, okay, my country probably has changed. It's become very organized, but the way that you can have like anything in the market,
Yeah.
From exercise books to fish.
Yes. Yeah, I do appreciate that. It's like you go one place and you could find it all. And if all you do is whoever you buy from, you ask them, hey, where's that?
Yeah, you can ask. And you can bargain.
Oh, yes, I know. You can't do that in our home country.
Everybody loves bargaining. Okay, now, fine. I'm not saying that everything must bargain, but bargaining is a way you interact with people.
Yes.
It's different from you push your trolley down the aisle and then you pick this potato and that fruit. There's just no interaction with
Good
anybody.
point.
Yeah.
Good point.
And then they will say things like, I miss you. Where did you go to?
I know. It's an interaction. It's a conversation. Yes. You develop a relationship with all your sellers. Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm to the extent that whenever I have headache or I just feel that I cannot think or do anything, my husband said, I think it's time for you to cycle out and go to the market and talk to a few people and you'll be well.
Wow.
And then he let me out and by the time I come back, I'm well.
That's so
interaction
good.
With people. Yeah. So
yeah.
This is a lovely country.
Yes.
I think the people I would say they want to have community. Okay, I wouldn't say it's perfect. Okay, there are things that are not right. There are many things that are not right. But if you look into the core of Cambodian people, they're very community. And I think if they don't have too much influence from unnecessary sources, right, I think they're good people.
Yeah.
That I would say I have got Cambodian families nowadays, so whenever sometimes I refer somebody like to get a treatment somewhere, then I'll tell them, this is my Cambodian family. And then they say, okay, we will make sure that we give him the proper treatment.
Yeah. Well, it is, you really do feel that connection. There's like people, those connections go deep and you really find yourself thinking and you need that connection. You miss that connection even after a few weeks.
Yes. So I think it's good because when you first started off, they'll see you as a foreigner. But after a while, they forgot you're a foreigner. It's like, what? You don't eat this? Or you don't do that, But today they spare me from the balut, the baby chick. Chick in the egg. No, I wouldn't mind eating one, but our patients just as lovely. Again, that's why I said this community thing. We have families quite often on a Cleft clinic day. The families will bring today is the duckling in the egg. Otherwise, they will bring banana. Sometimes those from Kampot, they'll bring seafood,
Wow,
they'll bring,
nice.
and then they'll just give to us. And always fruit season, they'll bring fruits for
Such a
us.
blessing.
Yeah, for us. They don't have to, because whether you give us any gift or you don't give us any gift, we will still treat.
Right.
But they would go the extra mile to appreciate us and we want to give you something and bless you from the little that they have. And like I said, the authentic things, they didn't have to buy a fancy cake with cream for you, but just give you bananas and whatever fruits they have. And so it comes from their heart. So that really warms my heart a lot. And of course, there are all the stuff there because quite a number of us are volunteers there. So this is something that I feel, whether they give or don't give, it's just that we know that they appreciate the work that we put for them, and also to see that they don't feel so helpless with a baby with cleft now because they know that there's a way that we can help them And again, the community thing that's happening is when they're waiting for their turns, everybody out there is everybody's friends. It's almost like back home, they call it Cleft and Palate Association. They're all supporting each other, and talking. And so they build those communities naturally. And so that's something that I find a very big blessing.
Yes. What is the name of the organization if someone knows a family that they want to send or refer?
Okay, in the past, it's called Friends of Clefts in Cambodia, FCIC, but then that organization has closed down maybe about 2-3 years ago. So the local organization is called One to One. That is overseeing this cleft ministry. But we also partner here with the National Pediatric Hospital.
Okay.
Then in Siem Reap, the hospital that does this work is called Angkor Hospital for Children. So I travel to both hospitals, and the staff there are being trained to be able to see these children.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The National Pediatric Hospital, is that the one on the Russian Boulevard?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We were there recently for something.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay. And I guess, are there other resources and places that you think are worth mentioning for new missionaries who are connecting with families instead? I think Mercy Medical is another one that many people don't know.
Mm-hmm. I think in terms of, these two setups are not really Christian hospitals, but I feel it's a great opportunity to work with people who are from a different faith and share life with them. And so when you mention about Mercy, then those are the Christian hospitals. Then there's also Hebron. Yeah, I think there are a few others that are coming up and even set up by locals also. So it's good to see that. And I think wherever we are, we should give compassionate ministry to those that we are seeing, not just the patients, but also the families. And I think through our conversation with them, because if the experience with talking to a doctor is always getting scolded, but when they can talk to another doctor who is not scolding them and trying to understand, it means a lot to them. And some of them might even consider, because one of our teammates said that they were reaching out to this girl, but she didn't want to be a Christian. But when she went to Mercy Medical Clinic and met our OMF missionary there, and she was so kind and gentle with her, from there she said, I want to be a Christian.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah. I mean, I just heard about it, I think last 2 weeks ago or something. So there's a place in workplaces, I would say, to be a witness for Christ. So don't give up hope, in the sense that sometimes working in non-Christian places can also be discouraging or difficult. Yeah. So I'm not denying that. Yeah, it's difficult, and there are areas where sometimes, like I say, when the values are different, and so it's not all easy, but I believe that God gives opportunities, and if you can see there's little opportunities, and just ride on those opportunities and let the Spirit work through those opportunities.
What have been the things that have kept you going? Because even in my short time here, I see a lot of burnout. So what keeps you going?
I think first is you need to have a clear calling, that God is calling you here. It's not wrong. I know some people come for 3 months or 3 years. It's not that everybody has to do like 25 years.
Right.
But it's God calling each of us to do. And when the going gets tough, we ask God, what should I do, and that type of thing, and how He is leading me through all the different seasons and challenges. I'm not saying it's without challenge. So I wrote a book. It's called Lizard Tales.
I wanted to talk about that. Yeah, tell me.
Why Lizard Tales? So I'm trying to say that, mission life is difficult and it's stressful. And like a lizard, when the lizard is stressed, the tail actually snaps off, but it's by God's grace, the tail grows back. So those are the stories of my broken tails, but by God's grace, they grow back. And so again, it's all about God and not about me. Then I think another thing is also having a sense of humor. That you can laugh at yourself and, the silly things you do, Like one of it was, I was in this Angkor hospital, and the scrubs we have got different colors, and mostly, you just don't bother whether it's green or it's blue. So I wore green there until a while they told me, maybe you should change to blue. I said, why? He said, because the cleaners wear green. But I felt, doesn't matter, right? But it's just that maybe they're afraid that the patients won't listen to me rather than it's a status thing. So after a while, okay, finally I wore blue. I mean, if you didn't tell me, I wouldn't know. Okay, so if you tell me, I will do it. It's okay, yeah. But these are just little things. But of course, there are sad things also. That's why I also wrote the book thing. But I think it's always coming back to the Lord and say, this is just a vessel for you to use, and how you use it and how you mold it. I see all these processes as God making us to be better disciples, not bitter disciples. Things go bad, and so it's always, I say, is this a discipleship journey that God is putting me through? Because back home we might not be stretched so much because you're not outside your comfort zone. So I would say people who come here, you be prepared to be stretched by God, but it's all for our good. Just like, when we teach students, we don't tell them the answer, we give them a process, learning process, and God just don't put us there at a certain point, but there's a process that He is working, and so sometimes we struggle with that, but in the end, it's meant to be for our good. Yeah. So we can say, okay, I think we need to have good friends, whether it's here or also whether it's back home, to be praying and supporting us. It's not a heroic thing to try and do these things ourselves. So having teammates here, having close friends, supporting supportive families, it is really a plus point. And of course, like I say, having like Cambodian families also is always something very special. So all this takes time to build. But again, it's all by God's grace that He orchestrates many of these very, very supportive relationships that we have.
Yeah. Well, I want people to read your book, so you want to give us a cliffhanger of maybe some of those or one of those stories that's in there?
Oh.
But don't tell us the ending. Leave us in suspension.
Okay. Actually, the story is not just everything in Cambodia, but it's also from the earlier days of my calling from Malaysia to Singapore to Cambodia. So one of the story was when I visited this village in Kampong Thom. And like I said just now, that we still have Khmer Rouge during that time.
Yeah.
And then I was staying in a pastor's house, and he gave me the honor of staying in the master bedroom. And to make sure that no Khmer Rouge will harm me, he locked me inside that room. And I was not the only one inside that room, because there were other four-legged things inside that room who were also locked inside with me. And because of mosquitoes, right, I've got mosquito net, and this four-legged friend was also in the mosquito net together with me.
Wow.
So, yes, that's so interesting, right?
Yes.
I mean, now thinking back was very funny, but when it really happened at the time, it's like
terrifying.
I couldn't even open the door to run out because he locked me in.
Wow.
Enjoy the book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so vividly in that moment. I didn't know. So I'll go check that out.
Actually, all you need to do is you need to learn how to tuck in your mosquito net properly.
That's the secret.
One way. That's one secret, yeah.
That's
then
good.
You can be more private in that space.
It'll guard against more than just mosquitoes.
Yeah.
What about some of those amazing God moments? I think that I was just chatting with Pastor Monirat today. Mm-hmm. He was talking about some of the spiritual stuff that he's seen, some of the spiritual warfare stuff that he's seen. What have been some of your experiences with spiritual things in Cambodia?
Spiritual things, I can't recall exact moments, but some of the spiritual things that I still remember, I would say the real darkness. Things that are dark, things that are not from the Lord. Mm-hmm. So it had happened to our church member. It's happened to church members, family members, and these are real. So I want to acknowledge that the Spirit of God is more powerful than any other spirits. So we don't want to glorify all these other spirits.
Right.
But we also don't want to say that, they are non-existent.
Yes.
So I think we need to be aware about this spiritual warfare that's happening in missions and especially in Cambodia, where there had been lots of bloodshed during the Pol Pot time, during the killing fields, and we know that many lives have been lost. And I think I would say we know that Satan came to steal, kill, and destroy.
Yes.
Still doing that. But that's why it's so important, for us to share the gospel so that people come out from darkness into the light. They don't have to come under this bondage anymore. And Jesus come to give us life and life abundant.
Mm-hmm.
So just wish that more people will hear this good news and also want to receive this good news and grow as disciples of Jesus Christ who can make other disciples too. That's what I would like to see.
Have you felt like you've had some run-ins with some of that darkness?
I think the most recent one is just, a short-term mission team came, and already one of the participants who visited Siem Reap, she couldn't breathe and she felt something pressing on her chest.
Yeah.
And her whole body was tense. And so we all had to rally around and pray for her. So this is something very real. And so call on the name of Jesus, and we want to depend on the blood of Jesus to overcome all these spirits that's not from the Lord. Yeah. So, it is there. Yeah, but I just want to continue to say that we have Jesus, we have Christ in us.
Exactly.
And we would like to see our Cambodian brothers and sisters also have this so that they're not living in fear, because quite many of them are scared to sleep on their own at night. So, but of course, I think as a church also we need to be a witness, I would say. What is when we say we are living in the light? How is it different from if we don't have this light of Jesus in us?
Yeah. What about any kind of final advice that you would give to new missionaries, whether they're on the field or whether they're contemplating or dreaming or praying earnestly to get to the field as soon as possible? What are some pieces of advice you'd give to them?
I think depending on what this person wants to do, some people come because they want to know how to support missions or missionaries. Mm-hmm. So again, depending on how the Lord is calling each of them, I would say, of course, those whom they felt that the Lord is calling them to longer term type of missions. So it's important to learn the language. Even if you say I can use my dental skill, I can speak English, but the heart language of the people is the Khmer language. And so learn the language, be patient with yourself. I would say remember to take breaks, so that you don't just run and you deplete all your energy. I like to write journals to see from God's perspective, how is this thing different from if I were just to see it from my own eyes.
Right.
And I think the other thing is, be kind to and gentle to yourself, because I believe people who come from wherever they come from, leaving their comfort zone, have got a strong expectation. They want to do something, they want to see something. So in terms of their own expectation, I think it's okay. Like I said, sometimes you just blow it because the values just clash. Can we be able to say, okay, I pick myself up again and I want to try it again? So again, all these things I would say had been over time. So I tell you, it's not perfect. I have to go and write the lizard tail book. Is from my journals.
That's so great.
Yeah, but I think over those years, I can see how God is at work, and just continue to hang there, with God and trust Him. And like I say also, I would say we should have moments of enjoyment. That even if I'm sitting down and eating porridge, with their salted fish or salted egg, right? And I just feel that I feel on top of the world. It doesn't have to be something very expensive. Can we find joys in little things? Real, but real, you don't have to act it out. But what are things that make me feel so like God gave me the energy and the joy? Riding my bicycle, having meals with friends, things like this. So I think look at little things rather than I don't know how many converts have you made in this last year type of thing. But how about friendship and helping someone that maybe know how to see that there's more to what they think is happening in this world, because there's a more powerful God. So like I said just now, sometimes we don't straight away say we can say about Jesus or God the Creator, but if we can tell them that there's possibly a higher power that's at work, and maybe we want to search and see who this person is, something, or who this God, this power is.
Yes.
So many things to do and say, but again, I think just continue to walk close with the Lord, and not with your own strength, but the dependence on Him.
Yes. Amen to that. Well, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Any final things or stories or anything that you want to share?
Well, I think I would say that I don't have other stories to share, but I would say that if there are other podcasts that people can listen from what you're doing, just listen to those other podcasts also.
Yes.
Just my own stories.
With some of the other podcasts from like other missionaries, or?
Yes, I'm thinking because I listened to Solina's story, and I would like to recommend everyone to listen to her story.
Oh, yes.
So it's very encouraging and challenging, inspiring. And so, so you ask me, I will say, please listen to the podcast.
Yes, I really love Selina's, oh my gosh. And I think I'm just so encouraged. Within OMF, I think there's a lot of very humble missionaries, and I love that. And so sometimes it's amazing to hear their stories. And I think about Isaiah, how, God is holy and inhabits eternity, but the one on whom I'll look is one who is humble and contrite. And I think those are always the most powerful for me. So I just really, really appreciate you and the other long-term missionaries at OMF, because you've been through a lot and, you guys have remained close to God and humble with that. So thank you.
Yep. Since you brought this up, maybe I'll just share that, one more thing is that just because, some of us have been in missions for a several number of years, it's not that we are Superman or superheroes, but, I would say, very normal human beings with all our difficulties, brokenness, failures, whatever you can name it. But, by grace of God, that we are able to be here, to be part of His, I would say, workforce, to share the good news and be His instruments of grace and love for the people. So I believe out there, if anybody's hearing this, that you feel you are very normal, we are all normal people that God used, and that's how our dependence on God make it special, that God made it special because His presence is with us and He will use us and enable us.
I don't know if you found that too. I feel like God uses the people who consider themselves normal the most effectively.
Okay.
I don't know. Have you found that?
Because, I just don't want people to listen to this podcast and say, no, they're just too special. I cannot be like that.
I agree. I agree.
I just want to say they're all broken people, all the broken tails, and it's all by God's grace that, another tail goes back.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. And I'll put a link to the book down in the description below, and I'll link the other videos you sent me as well so that people can learn about what God's doing here. So, thank you. All right. Pray po tiempo.
Pray po tiempo. Yes.
If you were encouraged by today's guest, drop a comment down below and I will send it directly to them. If you're interested in taking opportunities abroad, check out opportunities.omf.org. Hope this episode encourages you to follow God's calling wherever and whatever that may be. Peace.